The third subject of my final extra credit video will be talking about ending friendships over politics. That is a very controversial subject. Sometimes that raises a lot of eyebrows, depending on what subjects we're talking about, depending on what field of political systems we're trying to get into, and of course depending on what we're trying to strive through in life. Having an opinion is one thing, but sometimes mixing political views with your own personality is another. I personally myself would never unfriend somebody who has a different point of view. I usually unfriend somebody who has a stronger character. Like, for example, I understand that there are times where sometimes people may come off a little strong minded, they may come off having opposite ideas, or they just don't have a comment to say. And it's okay, because at the end of the day, you can't always change the world. The world's going to go on with their own days. The world will always be dependent of their own motives. And of course, the world is not going to care about what one may think. Personally, me, I pay attention to the logics. I personally pay attention to what goes around me. And I also use common sense on depending on what situations can or can't happen. And of course, the old fashioned question here of saying, does this make sense? Will this benefit my life? Will this change the way how I personally am as a human being? Or will this affect me in the future later on? You can have an opinion. No one is going to stop you from having an opinion. Nobody's going to try to threaten you. Nobody should threaten you at all. And nobody should feel a certain way just because you think a certain way. Now, it's like that old fashioned expression, you can't win them all. You can't please them all. But it's not bad to preach about what you think. Personally, for example, if you want to talk about feminism, animal rights, vegan, um, all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter, red pill versus left pill, it all just depends at the end on what you're trying to strive for, and it depends on what goals you're going to meet up with in the future. Now, it's like Kelly Osbourne once mentioned, I don't know why the world is what it is, but I don't want to say something that will personally be misconstrued and used against me. That's understandable. This is why at times even Hollywood and sports commentators or athletes or singers or dancers, this is why sometimes they don't really mix politics with their work, because it can get very tricky. It can be a very slippery slope subject, and not to mention, it, figuratively speaking, as the words of Rob Zombie would say, it would just end up in a lot of broken noses at the end, to where nobody wins, and somehow, some way, someone is going to be offended. Now, like I said, you can have your own opinions. No one's going to force you not to believe in anything on what you want to believe. But however, there's a time and place to talk about things. There's a time and place to feel certain things. There's also a time and place to pay attention to common sense logic of what really makes sense or not.